All right. Good morning. Hello, and welcome to day 2 of DGST 101 Digital Studies, Intro to Digital Studies, a class at UMW. I'm the professor, and I'm live streaming again today. So hopefully, if you're a student, hopefully some students are watching, basically. Cool. So today's stream is going to be pretty similar to yesterday's. I'm going to try not to go quite as long. Yesterday I had to do a lot of housekeeping kind of stuff and not quite as much today, I think. So maybe I'll be able to wrap it up a little bit. Less than an hour, right? We'll see what I can do. So good morning. If you are watching, like I said yesterday, it's always good to see who's out there or know who's out there. I mean, I see the analytics, the dashboard thing shows me I've got 3 viewers currently. Sometimes that's a little out of date. There could be more than that. But hopefully you're watching this at some point. So if you're a student, remember you can chat in the you can leave a comment in the Twitch channel chat, or you can say good morning or you could say hello in the live stream chat channel in Discord. So either of those options are good. I can see both of those. I can't see any comments if you're watching on YouTube, but I can see those later, I guess. But really, just use one of the other 2 options. Discord is probably better. Cool. So yeah, I'm kind of, I've got a number of things to cover today. Not too bad, I hope. So as you can see above me here, I've got the agenda up here. It's the checklist. I'll be talking about the structure of your domain. I'll show you how to install WordPress. Oh, good morning. Thank you. And we'll talk about adding content in WordPress. And basically, I want you to start getting a feel for your website, and I want you to understand how to add some stuff in there. Okay, cool. I just realized I still have the music playing, so I'm going to go ahead and pause that out of there. So yeah, this is it for today. Just want to remind you a couple of things though, actually. Don't forget using Discord. That's the main way that you will interact with each other in this class and me, I guess. So I want to remind you to use Discord. It's a good resource. It's also it's a platform with a good sense of immediacy in it. I posted a few things in Wordle today. Obviously that's optional, right? I mean, I'm not requiring you to play Wordle, but it's a fun way to just kind of connect with people. I've also been doing a few others. I only usually share my score if I actually, get it that day. Today's Wordle was 5 for me, which is, I occasionally get 2 or 3, but today was a tricky word, I guess. Movie Duel, I got on the first one. Hurdle took me all the way to the end to get it. I haven't done... So I like a number of these. I haven't done framed for today. And this one's interesting because it shows you the movie, like 1 frame at a time of a movie, and then you have to guess what movie it is. And the frames get gradually more and more recognizable, I've noticed. So the trick is still to get it in as few guesses as possible. Or, the challenge, the goal is to. This looks like a really interesting shot. Overhead shot of a car upside down. I can't really tell what kind of car that is, which might give me a clue about at least the time period. I don't recognize this shot. I know there's some shots of... I know this isn't it. I know it's not The Shining, but I know there are some shots of them driving to the hotel early on. What is that? It's very small. I can't see what... I don't know. If anybody knows this one, let me know. Do not know this movie yet. Seems like that looks like a really recognizable thing. Like that looks like a unusual object. So the kind of thing that would stand out, and if you recognized it. I can't tell what that object is though. I don't know. I'm just sort of... I know this isn't October sky, but what the heck? I do not. This may be a movie I have not seen or don't recognize at all, because I'm not getting anything for this. Let's just skip. Oh, okay. So there's someone I recognize. An actor I recognize. But I can't think of the name of any of the movies he's in except for that. Well, there's that one. Where they drive the thing. Oh, yeah, maybe. I haven't seen Midsummer, but I'm willing to try it. Oh, there you go. Yeah. Okay, I haven't seen it. So that was a collaborative effort. So thanks, Inbolg. I don't know how you say your name, but thanks. Yeah, let's see. I don't know if you have the same name on Discord, so I can't either. But I will. Oh, Bones. Okay, great. Thanks. So I'm adding you in my score for today. So cool. Thanks. All right. Yeah, there we go. So try it out. It's fun, right? Okay. So week 1, day 2. That's where we are. The things. So this class is obviously asynchronous. So you may be doing these things, after the fact or whatever. But yesterday your main goal was to sign up for a domain, and if you have not done that yet, some of what I'm going to do today will be a little too far ahead for you. In other words, you need to make sure to go back and either watch the video for day 1 or read the instructions and sign up for a domain before you start. You won't be able to do most of what I'm going to demonstrate today without a domain. So you need to go ahead and do that. Also, just a quick note, if you are, so I know at least one of you already has a domain registered on your own and you're posting content there, you will need a UMW domains account for something later in this class, and so I do want you to sign up for UMW domains, even if you already have another domain that you plan to use for your posting or just your personal use or whatever. I still am going to be teaching you processes that are specific to our platform. So, I will be teaching you with the processes that are specific to our platform, and also there are things that you will need a shared hosting account later on. So, again, sign up for UMW domains, even if you already have your own domain hosted elsewhere. Okay, so you could think of the UMW one as a practice one, maybe. I don't know. Okay, so that's what we're going to do today. In order to get into this, though, I do have to explain a bit of content. Oh yeah, wait, I just thought of something else. Sorry. Before I get into that, I noticed I posted the video obviously on. The live stream goes on YouTube as well as Twitch, but I noticed that the video that appears on YouTube does not actually have what do you call it? Subtitles and captions, and I don't know why. I'm looking at here. I don't want to watch myself, and it sort of says that they're supposed to be it says they're processing or something, but it doesn't. It shouldn't take this long, so I don't really know. So I'm just taking a look here to see if I can. If there's some setting I can change while it's streaming to make sure that it does live captions, and I don't see anything here, so I don't know. I'm gonna have to keep looking at this. I want it to have captions, so I don't know why they're not showing up. Anyway, let's get back to content. So again, today the goal is to I want to talk about your website a bit, so you'll need to have it. So in order to understand some of the recommendations I'm going to make and just the general way I talk about a website, for example, if you ask for help about something on your website, I will explain it to you using certain terminology that you may not be familiar with. So I do want to spend a little bit of time talking about just some basic terminology for understanding what you're doing when you create a website and the names of different parts of the website that you will need to work on as you start building it. So I'm going to go over that a bit here. I have some slides. This is actually a slideshow. Oops, I don't want to do that. Not that big. I want to do it like that so that I can actually still see it. Good, so week 2, day 1, this is where we are. Here are your goals for today. So these are the things that you should do. Some of this you can do while I'm talking. Some of this you will need to do on your own later. You are going to create some way to post content on your website. For most of you, I think that's probably going to be installing WordPress. That's fine. You're going to also create some content on that website, start customizing it, and complete the Hello World assignment. So that is due Friday, like all the assignments this week, but you should probably do it today, or whenever you watch this video, you should do that kind of first, because it's a simple assignment, or maybe deceptively simple is a better word, because there's not much that I'm asking you to do in terms of content. In fact, the content is pretty much up to you, but the in order to post content, you will need to first register a domain, install WordPress, figure out how to use WordPress. So those are kind of behind the instructions here. Those are implied by the instructions here. So that's what I'm going to be covering today. And so hopefully you'll be able to do that after watching this or working through this on your own. Okay, so that's the goal. Let's talk a little bit about URLs, because that's a way to understand, I think, the architecture of your website and really any website. One thing to keep in mind, so URL is an acronym. I'll go through what that means. But just in general, when you're talking about computers, whether it's a website, whether it's the computer that I'm streaming from right now, or your phone, or any computer that you work with, names are locations. So the name of a file, we're talking about a file, it tells you a lot more than just what that file is called. It also tells you where it is and what kind of file it is. There's a bunch of other stuff to do, but thinking of this kind of name equals location, just kind of hold that in your mind as I go through the rest of this. All right, so URL. So this is the thing that you've seen and that you've typed and that you've used many, many, many times and that you are using constantly, even if you don't realize it, even when you use an app on your phone. A URL is the location of a resource, and that's kind of it. They appear, and this arrow is pointing to the place where they normally appear, which is up here in the browser. I'm using Chrome in this case, but whether you're using Chrome or Firefox or Safari or something else, the URL is what appears in that address bar up there. Now, one thing that is worth noting is that URLs are quite long. As you can see here, docs.google.com, presentation, blah, 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 or they can be quite long. They don't always have to be. So this is one, this is another one that's kind of short, but notice there's different parts of it, and I know you can't maybe see this very much because it's not enlarged. The thing that so I do use Macs. One thing I find really frustrating about Macs though is all of the design features that they've implemented that actually make it harder for you as a user to understand what's going on. And let me explain what I mean. So whenever, if you were, so I'm on Chrome right now and I've changed my settings to make sure that I can see all of the URL because I want to see it. I want to know what's going on in it. But the designers of Safari, specifically on Mac, have decided you don't need to see all that. So you might just see docs.google.com and then you wouldn't see everything else after that. I think that's a really unusual choice. I think it's a really frustrating choice because it's hard for me to explain to you as a user what a URL is if you've never really needed to see them or felt like you never needed to see them, because Mac designers have decided that that's, I don't know, I don't actually understand that decision at all, so I don't know what their thinking was, but I find it frustrating. So I think there is a setting in Safari you can use that you can change to actually display the full URL. I'm not sure though because it frustrates me so much I don't even use Safari. I mean, I can't uninstall it from my computer, but if I could, I would. So I find it really frustrating. But this is what's there. Like those URLs are there. It's just Safari is hiding it from you. And like I said, that's annoying to me. Anyway, the URL, that's the thing up there. The location bar, whatever. It has different names, address bar, location bar. But what's going into that bar is a URL, and a URL is an acronym. It stands for Uniform Resource Locator. So like I said, names are locations, so the file name is part of that, but there's also a series of slashes that are completing the path to that. So think of it like directions in Google Maps or something. It's a series of steps that a computer has to follow in order to pull out that specific resource, that specific web page, this specific Google Slides presentation that I'm using right now, whatever it is. So URL, Uniform Resource Locator, that's what we're talking about. A web address is another term that is essentially a synonym. All right, so let's take a look at a sample URL. So this is a long URL. This is actually not a live web page, I don't remember. But it's just, I'm using it here to demonstrate the different, the kinds of things that are built into a URL. This is a pretty typical one. Just it would be if this file existed. I don't think it does actually, but this is a web page hosted on my domain zachwhalen.net, and it's got different pieces. There are different pieces to this that I want to explain. I want to give you some words for. So if I'm explaining something to you, then you can kind of know what I'm talking about. So what I've done here, as you can see, is I've highlighted different parts of this, and I'm going to explain what each of these are. But just kind of going back to this slide briefly, you should start to look at a URL like this and be able to slice it into parts. Periods are going to divide one part of the URL from another part. Slashes are also going to divide one part from other parts. So looking for dots and slashes in particular are kind of delimiters as you look through this URL, and they help you start parsing it visually, understand like what are these different pieces of this. So I've highlighted them just differently so that I can talk about them differently, but again, looking for those dividers is what's the key, I think. Okay, so let's start looking at these. Now, the first one is the protocol. That's the name of this. It's HTTP. If you're talking about a web page, it might be HTTPS. Chrome does hide that by default. If you look, I don't know if you can see mine, but it does have the lock icon here, which shows me this is actually an HTTPS page. Yeah, it does annoy me a little bit that those are hidden as well. The protocol is often hidden as well, but not as much as the thing that Safari does. But anyway, it is there. HTTP stands for Hypertext Transfer Protocol. The fundamental concept that you're creating when you make a web page is hypertext, and the web is the set of really it's the set of protocols and relationships that exist between all of the computers connected to the internet that create audiovisual content, and you render that in web clients like Chrome, like Google Chrome here or whatever else. So there are other protocols. FTP is for File Transfer Protocol. Gopher is an old one. Torrent is also one. Like if you think about torrenting files, which you may have done or may have heard of people doing, that's also another protocol. A protocol is a set of rules defining a relationship, defining how communication exists between two different computers. So it's saying here are the rules that this computer follows, the other computer follows a similar set of rules so that they can talk to each other. It's a sort of a set of ground rules for a conversation. So hypertext is being transferred to my computer according to the rules of that protocol. That's what HTTP stands for. Usually you won't see this or really be able to change this. Just I wanted to explain what that's doing there. Okay, so let's look at some other pieces here. All the way at the end, right? So this is the file extension, and every file on your computer should have a file extension, but you may not have it displayed. So I'm on Windows right now. For both Windows and Mac, and Linux, you have an option that you can set somewhere that will determine whether or not your computer is going to show or hide file extensions. I recommend showing them because they are visible on web if they're part of a URL, so it makes sense to go ahead and display them on your own computer as well. So on a computer of your own, like if you're working on a Microsoft Word document, it probably ends in .docx. If you're working on, if you're reading a PDF, it's going to end in .pdf. And the file extension tells the computer what kind of thing it is so that it knows what to do with it to display it. On the web, an HTML document is a hypertext document, so it's going to be displayed as a web page. JPG is an image, so it's going to display it as an image. So those are important things. They are part of the name, and again, I recommend displaying them whenever you see them. For now, I'm just going through the terminology. The file name, this is what we conventionally think of as the file name. This is what you would see on your computer. Notice, by the way, that I've named my file here hello-world, all lowercase. I mean, you can do whatever makes sense to you, but I find it helpful personally. I always name my files lowercase and avoid spaces in file names, because sometimes space characters, if you type the space bar, it may show up differently on your computer versus in a URL. And so I find it is easier just to avoid that by not using spaces usually ever. Hyphens are okay. Underscores are also what I would normally do. Okay, so this is all kind of background stuff, but this is now we're getting into the actual architecture of a domain and the kind of thing I'm going to be recommending you set up pretty quickly on your website. So in this case, DGST 101 is what's called a subdomain. You notice I still haven't actually got to my domain. I mean, you can see it right there at zachwayland.net. But the subdomain is, it appears in a URL before the main domain. It is a site within a site, or a domain within a domain. And it has its own name. It has to be unique within that domain. And it's basically, yeah, a separate space that you can work in. Okay. By contrast, there's also something called a subdirectory, or folder, or directory, whatever. These are different concepts, subdomains and subdirectories. They occur at different places in the URL. They also are structured a little differently in the back end. They are also, like a subdomain, a way to separate out part of your site, or to kind of think of it as a sub part of your site. But I think that a subdomain is a stronger, a more distinct kind of difference. And so I'm going to recommend that you install WordPress in a subdomain as opposed to a subdirectory like this. You really don't need both. So that's the main thing I'm going to recommend, is don't do both a subdomain and a subdirectory. Some people do that for some reason. But that's the idea. So this is, again, I'm just kind of adding names here. Notice that the subdirectory comes after the domain. So it's kind of going off that way. I don't know if I'm gesturing this direction. I don't know if that's the right direction because I don't remember if I had my camera mirrored or not. Anyway, it doesn't matter. So hopefully you know what I'm talking about. All right, so this is the TLD, or it's actually top level domain. This is another acronym. And you've already chosen this if you've signed up for a domain. So I recommended .net or .com. Those are the two big ones, I think, at this point. .com is probably the one to go with if it makes sense and it sounds good. Bless you. But, you know, bless you. .net is, or Gesundheit. .net is fine. I like .net in my name because it sort of rolls nicely off Zach Whalen, .net, the N sound there. But anyway, finally, this is the domain. This is the thing that I've registered for myself. You've hopefully also registered a domain for yourself. Again, if you haven't yet done that, you should do that. I'm going to next be talking about how to install WordPress and do some other things, so you won't be able to do those things unless you have already done the step of installing WordPress, of signing up for your domain, which was what you did hopefully yesterday. Okay, so this is a couple of things that I want you to keep in mind. So there's a question here for the Hello World assignment. You need the URL, you need the entirety of the post link for that. It's going to show up as what's called the permalink if you're looking at it in the WordPress editor. Please do the whole permalink. Yeah, and I'll show you that when I get into the WordPress editor a little bit later. But yeah, good question. Okay, so when you're working with WordPress, you're going to have a choice to make pretty quickly, and really the most significant choice when you're installing WordPress is where to put it. And remember, names are locations. So when I say where to put it, it's what name is it going to have. So is it going to have this name, DGST, for example, dgst101.zachwhalen.net, or is it going to have zachwhalen.net/dgst101? First one's a subdomain, the second one's a subdirectory. You don't need both. So choose one or the other of these first two options, subdomain or subdirectory. Don't do subdomain plus a subdirectory. And there's actually something you might have to change. So the actual software is going to look like it's steering you towards option 3, but I don't recommend doing that. Okay, so that's that first item on the to-do list. Let's see, there it goes. Yeah, so that's hopefully makes sense. So the slides here, there's not much content actually in these slides, to be honest, but I did include the graphic for the structure of the domain name stuff under at the bottom of the notes for today. So if you need to refer back to it, like if, for example, I'm asking you a question like, what is your subdomain? And you don't remember what a subdomain is, you can look at this picture and this will tell you what it is. Okay, so that's, hopefully that makes sense. So I'm going to switch gears now to actually get into the domains dashboard and show you how to work with it a little bit. Whenever I do this, I have to do a few kind of disclaimers because my dashboards look a little different from yours for a couple reasons. First of all, I'm faculty, but I'm also, I've been using these accounts for years, and so I have a ton of content. A lot of it's leftover kind of example demonstration content that I should probably go through and delete at some point. I also have an account switcher, so this happens sometimes. Let me just get this back real quick here. So I can show you this. So this is what you see once this is almost very similar to what you see when you first log into UMW Domains after you've signed up for a domain. So this is my account, and I have tons of things. Like I said, a lot of it's kind of garbage, but the basic thing that you see here should look pretty similar to what you see when you log into UMW Domains. So this presentation of this stuff, this is what I consider the domain dashboard, and this dashboard is created using some software called cPanel, and cPanel is very common software for managing hosted websites, which is what this is. So this is this is DGST101.net. This is that account that I'm looking at right here. I'm going to actually play around a bit in this cPanel account because it's going to look, you'll see it's going to look a little closer to what you're going to see. Just a quick kind of explanation. This is domain of one's own, and this is Reclaim Hosting. This is this is my private, my personal web hosting account. It's with a different. It's technically the same company, but it's actually a different account, and it's just a little bit of a simpler interface. And it's going to let me install something and demonstrate a few things using my actual domain name, zachwhalen.net. This is where I have that hosted. I don't use UWW domains for that. But the point is they both use cPanel. It's just that cPanel is themed slightly differently, so some of the look and feel is a little off. Okay, so this is what you see in Domain of One's Own. This is what I see in Reclaim Hosting. But you notice that the stuff down here, it's all the same. It's just the banner basically at the top is different. Okay, so well, let me just kind of orient you a little bit to what we got here. Each of these areas in cPanel have different things in it. The one you're going to use the most is this top one that's called Applications. And I'll talk about that in a little bit. But you're also going to be using the Subdomains tool down here, which is in the Domains area. You may also be using the File Manager at some point later on. That's pretty much it. I mean, there are a few other things here, like if you want to make a backup of your site, these tools are useful. The Backup Wizard is the one I recommend. You might need to monitor your disk usage if you start running out of storage space. So that's kind of useful there. This other stuff, most people don't find it useful or don't deal with email, but you can if you want to, I suppose. There's a few other things that you might find helpful, but mostly, you won't. Mostly this is just kind of here in case you want to look at it. Some of these things are kind of powerful tools that you could theoretically mess things up with. So, be careful if you're clicking around, I guess. You really don't need to access your website with terminal or SSH. I mean, you can, but I'm not going to teach you how to do that, and it's not really necessary. And you could actually mess things up if you do something wrong in there. Okay, so like I said, the thing that we are going to be working with first is the subdomains area. Where did it go? So here it is. So it's where it says domains, and then you click on subdomains. Again, my recommendation is to install WordPress in a subdomain, and for that to happen, you first have to create the subdomain. So that's what I'm going to be walking you through here. I'm going to be walking you through creating a subdomain. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and add that as a step on today's agenda, because that's actually what I'm going to do before I can install WordPress. So there we go. So creating a subdomain is the step I'm on right now. So it's this tool here that says subdomains. You can click on it and take a look at it here. I'm going to actually do this over on this site for today. Again, mostly it looks the same, but I just wanted to make it look like on my actual URL, my actual domain, zachwhalen.net. All right, so I'm going to create a subdomain. Notice that the document root field is going to be automatically filled in. Don't worry about that. Don't change it. Let it just do that automatically. For the domain dropdown, you notice I have a ton of stuff already, but you'll just probably have the basic option of whatever your domain is. Choose that as the domain. And then for the subdomain, simply write the word that you want or whatever you want here. So I like DGST 101, or you might just want to do DGST, or maybe digital studies, or maybe digital -studies. You can't have spaces in a URL, so whatever it is, whatever sort of makes sense to you, whatever feels good to you, make sure it makes sense. Oh, you can't use underscores. You can do hyphens and whatever else, but now I need to make sure I don't already have one called DGST 101 on this site. I might. I don't. Okay. So, I'm just to be safe, I'm going to call mine DGST 101 demo, and that will make it easy for me to delete it later on if I want to. Okay, so zachwhalen.net. So you can see down here that the document root automatically filled in. This is what it's going to look like after it's created on the web, but I'm not going to check that yet. I'm just going to hit the create button here. Notice, by the way, the subdomain field, there's no periods there, there's no hyphens there, it's just straightforward there. Some people will type the full thing here like that, and unfortunately that will actually work. And I say unfortunately because then the subdomain that gets created is DGST101 demo.zachwhalen.net, and that's very long and confusing. So just keep it simple. Okay. So let me go ahead and create that. It just takes a few seconds usually. There we go. It says it has been created. Great. Now, I have a ton of stuff here. You will just see the one that you just created probably, or maybe if you've done a couple others, you might see those as well. But if you scroll down here, you'll see that this is the one I just created, and it's DGST101 demo.zachwhalen.net. That's the document root. That's the place where I can install things. You'll notice that it says not directed, and that's what it should say. So don't try to direct it. Don't change that. Don't manage redirection. Just leave it as it is, and you're ready to use it. So let me take a quick look at what it looks like. So DGST 101 dot. You can see other auto-completing other people's DGST 101 sites. So there we go. Yeah. So this is what it should look like. So you notice I typed this into a separate browser tab. This is the live view of this subdomain, and this is the URL for the subdomain, dgst101demo.zackwhalen.net. It is not secure. I'm not using HTTPS for this. Doesn't matter. I mean, I could, but it doesn't matter. No worries there. dgst101demo.zackwhalen.net is the subdomain I just created, and that is where it is. So I just saw Tempe said hello in the general channel. If you don't mind, Tempe, try to use the there's a dog. For chatting during the live stream. There's a live stream chat channel for that. So I mean, I saw it anyway, but I'll see. I have the live stream chat channel pulled up, so I will see those comments and questions more quickly if you use that one. Okay, so that's the subdomain. Let's see. Oh yeah, I've created a subdomain, so I'll check that off of my agenda here. Always takes 2 refreshes. There it is. All right, so let's get back to the dashboard here. Now, like I said, most of you I'm going to recommend installing WordPress. That's going to be a good way to create content. And sorry, I just saw Timmy said she lost the stream, but I guess you can't hear me if you've lost the stream. It is being, all this is being recorded and archived, so no worries there. All right, so you can always watch it later. So let's go back to the main cPanel page. Installing WordPress does involve a few steps. They're pretty easy, but what you're going to look for is something called Installatron. And in this cPanel, I can access it this way using the My Apps link. In this Installatron, it does look slightly different. Let me get back to this. You can get to it where it says View More here, or you can get to it down here, I think, where it says Installatron Applications Installer. Either way, you're going to get to something that looks like this. This is the Installatron Applications Installer for this site, and what you see as I scroll down here, these are sites I've already installed. As you can see, several of these need attention, and I need to work on these. But that's what you see basically. You see all of the currently installed applications. What you're looking for though is this tab on the right side of Installatron that says Applications Browser, and this is where you can make a choice about software to install. Like I said, WordPress is probably the way to go if you're not sure where else to start. You can always do other things later, but WordPress is fine, and a lot of people use it. So go with WordPress if you don't know what else to do. If you've already used WordPress and you're kind of sick of it, I can recommend a few other things. I do like Grav. Grav is not easy though. It's hard to get Grav up and running, honestly. I like it once it's up and running, but the process is a kind of a long learning curve. I used to use Drupal a lot. I haven't in many years though, and I'm kind of curious to see what it's like nowadays. And I haven't, so for example, so it's currently on version 9. The last version I used was 7. But WordPress is going to be a lot easier for many uses. So if you're thinking about blogging, WordPress is already set up to be a blog. For Drupal and Grav, you have to kind of do some work to them to make them into a blog. So again, WordPress is what I recommend with some qualifications. So let's take a look at it here. When you click on it, you'll see an overview. So just some explanation about what WordPress is. The current version is 5.9.3. I think it's a little farther than that actually, but the current version in Installatron is 5.9. And if you're ready to install it, you just have to click this button here to get started. Click it once. It does take a few seconds, and it's not obvious that it's doing something sometimes. But make sure you just click it once, and then you'll get to this installation wizard. And there's a lot of things that go into WordPress. WordPress is software. It's coded in PHP, and it uses a MySQL database to host your content. So it's going to do all of that stuff for you, but you do need to kind of understand a little bit about what it's doing, and Installatron is going to do all that configuration for you. But you do need to make some decisions about WordPress as you put it in here. The first and most important decision is where to put it. Remember, like I said, locations, names, same thing. So what are we going to call this? I've already decided that I'm going to call this, that I have created a subdomain specifically for this. And as you can see, I have many subdomains and projects and things, so I'm looking for it. I'm still looking for it. Didn't I call it DGST demo? It's in here somewhere. Wow, okay, there it is, finally, goodness. So that's the subdomain that I created. This is, so notice when I selected this, I had to select this from the drop down. You can actually, sometimes it shows up with the www as well. You don't do that one, but do the simplest version of it like that. And also where it says directory optional, you want to delete that. Remember, like I said, you don't want to do a directory and a subdirectory and a subdomain at the same time. That's if you take nothing else away from this, that's some advice I want to give you. I even have a GIF demonstrating how to make sure you don't do that on the in the notes for today. So yeah, don't do both. So where was I? There. So yeah, just delete it there. I wish this software could be configured so that it did not even recommend that, but it does recommend that for some reason, and you can just not do it, basically. Okay, so there is a license agreement you should probably take a look at. It's pretty straightforward, but this is, WordPress is open source software. So that means that anybody can develop it and work on it. You can as well if you want to, but honestly don't recommend messing around with it too much, because if you break it, it might be hard to fix. But it is fun to actually look into it. Okay, automatic update. I do recommend leaving it to automatically update and take care of itself. So you probably want to make a backup, have it do backups, but this can also lead to some problems if your website runs out of space. Like if you are running out of space, one of the problems could be that you're filling up the space with backups, and that's one of the first things that you and I will check together if that does happen. So just an FYI, like you can decide how to do that. Okay, now this part here is another significant decision you get to make. And the decision is, how do you want to access your WordPress dashboard? So right now, again, I'm in the Installatron dashboard within the cPanel dashboard. There's lots of dashboards. The WordPress dashboard is where you're going to be creating content. And what you're deciding here is, how do you want to access that? So if you let it generate the username and password, that's fine. It's a good, high quality password and username. And that the advantage of leaving it this way is that from now on, you can always just log into it from Installatron. So for example, Anticlimactic Alliance, that was a webcomic some of my students made years ago, and I hosted it on this account for them. So if I wanted to get into that WordPress account's dashboard, I could click on this link right here and go straight to that dashboard. I don't remember the username and password for it, and I don't need to, because Installatron will take me straight in there. Now, if I wanted to log into my site, like my main WordPress site is set up differently. I actually have to go to zachwhalen.net/wp-admin in order to log in, and I do have to know a username and password that I can enter directly there. So I don't have to go through the cPanel stuff at all. It's a quick one-stop place. I'd say quick, as it's taking forever to load. This is why I'm actually getting away from WordPress, because sometimes it takes forever to load. But this is fine if you want to remember your own username and password, or ideally use a password manager to do that, as opposed to just remembering it. So that's what you're deciding. If you want to do it yourself, if you want to log in directly yourself, then change the username and password to something that you can remember. If you don't care, or if you don't want to do it that way, then just leave it the way it is, and that's fine. So I'm going to leave everything else the way it's listed there, and just hit install. Oh, this thing actually, my password manager decided to go ahead and save that, but that's it. So I hit the install button. You notice that the processing thing is spinning. That means it's in progress, it's working. You can open the task manager in Installatron and see how it's doing. It really just takes a few seconds, usually maybe 30 seconds to do everything. What it's doing is it's telling you what it's doing. It's setting up the database. It's creating the connection between the database and the front end, and should be done pretty soon here. And I'm not going to check off the installing WordPress agenda item until I've verified that it is installed. But yeah, Installatron tells me it's complete, so that's good, probably. Let's take a look at, remember this is what the subdomain looked like after I first created it. So let me refresh it and see if it looks different now. Oh, it does. Okay. So now this is WordPress. WordPress is now installed here, so I have installed WordPress. Great. So I'm going to check that off of my to-do list. There we go. Now, this is obviously a brand new, fresh, blank WordPress account. There's not any content here yet, other than the demo. Excuse me, other than the sample content. So I need to do some work to change that, but that's that wasn't possible until now. And now that it is possible, I'm going to go into this and show you how to work with WordPress a little bit. I'm going to spend some more time on WordPress tomorrow because there are some other steps you should do very quickly or very early on in your journey with WordPress to protect your site, to secure it, to customize certain things that are choices you probably wouldn't think of as you're exploring on your own. But for now, I do want you to just explore it on your own. Just like once you've installed it for the first time, play around with it, see what's possible. So let me show you how to do that, how to play around and see what's possible. Okay, so let me go back to the My Applications tab to find the link, since I didn't actually remember it. And if I click on this right here, which says WP Admin, it should take me to my WordPress dashboard. Yeah, here we go, great. And it actually already needs to be updated. Wow. So this is WordPress 5.9. This is the WordPress dashboard, and this is where you will probably spend most of your time whenever you're working on your website, when you think of like things that you're doing in your website. So this is, yeah, this is it. So I don't need this message anymore. Let me see what this update is, because it's kind of strange that it already needs to be updated. Okay, so these are actually important plugins that need to be updated. So Akismet is super important. I'll talk about it tomorrow. Limited login is also really important. So yeah, definitely need to update these. I'm surprised that the package didn't already include that, but let me go ahead and do that. I should mention too, I mean, you should always do updates, and you may have seen in my application browser, I have lots of copies of WordPress that need to be updated. There's a couple of them that are in weird branch versions of WordPress, so I can't technically update them. I mean, I could run it, but it might break other things. So but I need to do that. So anyway, this is all you need to do usually, is just click the update button. And Installatron can also do that too from here. Like you could just click this. I don't know if this will work, but I'll try it. It may work, it may not. I'll just let that run on its own and see what happens. Anyway, this is the WordPress dashboard. So let me orient you a little bit here. You've got kind of this sidebar on the left is really where you'll kind of figure out what's going on, and like the dashboard when you first log in is just kind of different summaries of certain different things from the site, like what's going on in the site, your basic at a glance kind of stuff. In terms of the content, there are two main kinds of content that you'll create. One is posts, and this is what I recommend you starting with. And then there's also pages. They are different from each other structurally or semantically, rhetorically, I guess. Pages are things like as you see, a privacy policy or an about me or a contact info or a portfolio or a resume. Things that are permanent, things that if something changed about your contact info, you would change this page. So it's not something that is sort of always true about you. That's always the current state of truth about your privacy policy, your about page, your whatever. Whereas a post is more time-based. So a post is like, here's something I did today or I thought today, or here's my latest review of a movie that just came out. So this is your journal, this is your articles, whatever you think of, like different terms, but posts are the kind of bread and butter of a blog. So that's the blog kind of content. When I think about a blog page or a blog post or a blog article, this is what we're talking about. We're blogging, we're making posts here. So the first one, I mean, it includes this example one called Hello World. And for the Hello World assignment, you could simply edit this post and that would be fine. Let me just show you a bit about this. WordPress has, for the past few years, been using this thing called the block editor, and I say it's been used for the past few years. I'm still not used to it, and I don't actually write in WordPress much myself, so I don't know. I often am sort of figuring it out as I go whenever I demo it. It's pretty good in a lot of ways. It has issues, but it's, I think, pretty good in terms of encouraging you to write in different ways, and I think that's important. So yeah, so you have a title. Obviously, Hello World is the title. Here's the post part, and what happens when the block editor comes into play whenever you hit enter, and now you're starting to write a new block. You can type a / and then choose different kinds of blocks. Like you can make a heading. You can make it different heading levels. So the top level one, that's going to be an H1 heading, and H2 should be the highest level that you use within a post. Or you can do different H's. I don't know. I don't want to do headings here. Delete that post here. If you just want to do a paragraph, you can just start, just typing. This is my next paragraph. If you want to include an image, you can, again, / and then you can pick it up this way. Oh, this is interesting. It lets you embed from images directly. That's interesting. But if you click on image, this is where you can upload some kind of image. This is, let me find something kind of interesting. Yeah, this is something kind of interesting. So this is a, this is an image, and you can add a caption, picture of a nebula. I think that's what this is, nebula. The one thing you want to do, though, also is add alt text. So I wish that this prompted you to do that a little bit more clearly, but it is important to add an alt. Oh, there it is, the alt attribute over here. So over here in the bottom right where it says alt text. This is what you should always do this whenever you upload an image or any other kind of media. You should explain what the image is. This is a space photo of a nebula. I keep typing an R for some reason. The alt text is what's going to appear in case the image doesn't load, or in case someone is accessing your website that can't see it. So someone who is blind or uses assistive or other technology to access your website, that's going to be, yeah, that's there. Okay, so that's kind of it. I mean, really, with the block editor, it just kind of explored and see what's possible. I mean, there's different things, and it's fun to see what's available. You can do some basic styling things with this, but I don't really recommend it. I recommend just kind of going with the default styles, because the theme designers who put this together to make it look this way, they know what they're doing. So, don't play too much with the look and the colors and things like that. Okay, a couple other things you would probably want to do. Categories and tags. These are what are called taxonomical structures. By default, you have a category called uncategorized, and that's not very helpful. So you probably want to add a new category. So make it like, DGST 101 posts or something like that, or just DGST 101 is probably better. And add your post for DGST 101 to that category. If you think of other names for things, you're welcome to use this. Obviously, this is your site, so you can organize it however you want. But if you think of like, maybe there's like a daily post category, or maybe there's something else, you can do that way. You can also use tags. Typically tags tend to be more like free form and kind of on the fly kind of things, whereas categories are more kind of top down. So you probably want to have no more than 4 or 5 categories total, whereas for tags, you could have hundreds of different tags as you start adding content. So that's just basics there. Okay, so this is the basics of adding a post. There's one more thing that you need to know about posts in relation to this class, and that has to do with sharing it. So whenever you want someone else to see this, so over here it says permalink, this is going to be where this post appears on the web. So let me go ahead and update this post so I can show it to you. You can click on this link actually from here to view it, and notice that this view link now is the live URL for this. Notice it says dgst101demo.zachryland blah 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 hello world. This is the post as it appears to anyone else in the world. If you type this in, or if I copy and paste this and put it into Discord, and you click on the link, this is what you will see. Now, if you were to share this, so this is a URL, this is an address, but there's a big problem with this one, which is that if I give you this link, you notice how it says post.php action equals edit. I can edit my website, you cannot edit my website. So if I sent you this link, you would get a access denied message. You would not be able to see this. So don't submit this. Don't send me this in Discord. Don't send it to me in Canvas. I can't do anything with that. But do send me this. So this one here. So in the editor, it's over here where it says the permalink area, right? You want to make sure that this is the one that you want, right? That's the one you share. So this goes back to Bones' question earlier. That's what you share. Submit that in Canvas, share that in Discord, whatever, right? That's the one that works. Okay, so that's the basics of adding content. There's a lot more to it, but that should be enough to get you started with that. One final thing that I'll just sort of point to, and I want to wrap this up soon. Yeah, you can do, general is always good in Discord. The other thing, I also made a showcase channel just as a place to just share things. So that's fine too. Honestly, there's not a lot of, I don't have a lot of constraints in mind around Discord. I mean, you sort of do whatever. And what you just did is great. So you just shared that, it looks like, in Discord in the showcase channel. So thanks. Yeah, that's how it works. You did it right. Good job. Okay, so that's adding content and that's sharing content. So great, thanks for demonstrating that. So let me take a quick look at themes, because you might be interested in thinking about, okay, this image of this bird is kind of neat. Let's but maybe there's other things I can do. I wonder what kind of bird that is. I've been trying to get into bird identification, not into it, but I've been trying to learn how to better identify birds. And I don't recognize that one. We have a family of finches. We have, like on our front porch, we have a spot where birds like to build a nest, and different birds move into it every summer, basically. And sometimes multiple generations of birds come through it over the summer. Currently, it's occupied by a family of house finches, which are cute little birds, and they're like reddish on the front, and they're nice looking birds. But they're really, the male is annoying me, because I like to sit on the porch in the mornings to do some writing, and this bird is like hopping around like in the tree near my porch, like chirping at me, like he's mad at me for invading his space. But I'm like, I was here first. Also, I'm not going to mess with your children. It's fine. But he's like there, like, and it's not like a super loud chirp. It's just like, pure, like he's just sort of annoyed with me, and I'm like, leave me alone. But there's also like there's a group of house sparrows too that I've not seen in our yard until this year before. So that's kind of interesting that they've showed up. I don't know where they came from. And of course, there's catbirds and robins and things too. Anyway, birds are fun. Let's think about other things we could do with this, and that might be more interesting. So, in the dashboard, that kind of stuff, the way it looks and feels, and in some cases behaves, is in the appearance area. And this is interesting. There's actually something called an editor. This is new. How does this work? It says it's in beta mode, so that might mean it doesn't work super well. Huh. Okay, this is kind of neat. So this is giving me the option to actually edit this theme visually. That's kind of cool. That's a new thing. Well, let me leave that alone for now, because that's interesting, but beyond the scope of what I wanted to talk about today. So when you first install WordPress, you get a handful of themes already. These are fine themes. You can customize them. This is the more conventional way I'm used to customizing a theme. You can click on the customize button, and I think anyway this is going to take me to the normal thing. Oh no, this is a new thing too. Well, okay, I don't want to deal with this right now. Let me show you how to add new themes, because that's the way to make a really big difference very quickly is just to change the theme. So you can search installed themes, but there's only 3 themes installed: 21, 22, and 23. I mean 22, right? 2020, 2021, 2022. But there are actually thousands of themes available. Now, most of these are going to be third-party themes, so they're going to be developed by somebody, some company, somebody in the web, and some of these will be great. Some of them will be fine. Some of them will be terrible. Some of the nicer-looking ones, you may have certain features that you have to pay for because it's a business. I mean, people make their living, developing WordPress themes. So you can take a look at these, but your mileage will vary. I mean, you might find that some of these are actually super hard to work with, and I might not be able to help you with them because these are developed by third parties. I've seen some of these before, but I've not necessarily used them. So in terms of what features they have, how to activate those features, how to customize different parts of it, it's terminology, it's things that is going to be developed by the developer of the theme, and so it's going to be idiosyncratic. It might not be something that would make sense to you or me. So let's do, blank canvas. That's an interesting one. I'm kind of curious about that, but let's say, so if you do like one, so you can preview it, and it'll give you a preview of kind of what the theme looks like. This one obviously is quite minimalist, and I kind of like minimalism. So I'm going to go and install this one just by clicking the install button. And what it's doing now is it's downloading the code for this theme and any images, and it's installing that into my my domain. And now that is installed, I can activate it. So you notice that there are 2 buttons there. There's install and activate. If I go back to the main themes page, you'll see that blank canvas is now available. Interestingly, it looks like it also installed this one called Seedlet, which tells me that blank canvas is probably a child theme that depends on code from Seedlet as well. So it knew that, WordPress knew that it needed to install both of them to have everything it needed. So I could actually install either of these, but I'm going to go with blank canvas, just activate that. And now if I look at my website, so now this is the public view of that post I created a little while ago. It's probably going to look different if I refresh it. Yeah, indeed it does. It looks quite minimal. There's hardly anything here. There's not even a navigation bar or link. So this is very much a blank slate. That's kind of nice. So obviously themes can be much more elaborate than that, but that's how you do it. You first install it, then activate it, and then you can start customizing it from there. Okay, so that's customizing themes. So this is your main goal for today, honestly. It's just what I've done just now is, so first of all, you do have to have a domain. I recommend creating a subdomain, and then within that subdomain, I recommend installing WordPress. And then within WordPress, you should create a Hello World post or edit the one that it comes with. And then you should also start customizing the way it looks. So change it around, customize it, whatever you want to do to make it look good. All right, so I'm going to wrap it up because I've been going about an hour. I wanted to make this shorter and I failed, but it's a little bit shorter if I wrap up soon. Tomorrow we're going to start looking at digital creativity. This is a class, of course, that's adapted from a semester-long class. One of the things I do in the semester-long class is I set aside a part of the semester several times, 2 or 3 weeks of the semester where students choose different modules to work on. And I call these modules because they're not exactly assignments. It's really a set of things to read and learn and try, and then you share the results after you've spent 2 or 3 weeks reading, learning, and trying different things. And you find other people that are working on similar things, you share and collaborate if you want to. But it's really a very free-form kind of learning. It's not like you have to do this project or you have to do this thing. I give you a list of possible projects, and you choose the one that makes sense to you. This is a way that students can choose your own difficulty level. So if there's something that you are totally new to, there are some projects that might be good for beginners. If it's something you've already done before but you want to try to take further, there are some projects that might be better for advanced users. I try to give you suggestions along those lines. I'll talk more about that tomorrow, but if you want to go ahead and start looking at it, for this class, I'm actually going to ask you to choose from just one of 3 options. There's on the website, dgst101.net, there are like 15 options, but just to make it a better chance of you finding other people working on the same thing, I want you to choose from one of 3. So, and these are linked in the notes for today, I think, and tomorrow. So we're going to look for creativity modules. I want you to choose from interactive fiction, actually, which is that first one there. These are randomly sorted. So, so interactive fiction, creative coding, or digital audio. I want you to choose one of those 3 modules. And when you look at a module, what you'll see is, again, I don't want to get too far ahead of myself because I want to talk about it a little bit more tomorrow, but it's a list of things that you can learn and then a list of things for you to try on your own. And that's really all it is. So pick one of those 3 and try to work on it basically for the rest of the week. Okay, so that's pretty much all there is. All right, well, that's all I think I have to say today. I went through a lot. It took me a while, but I did go through a lot. I hope that was helpful. If you have questions, of course, please feel free to ask them now. If you can type it in Discord. You can always email me. I will be online this afternoon again using Whereby. So it's whereby.com/Zach Whalen. I guess I could pull it up if you want, but I'll link to it maybe I'll link to it in Discord just to remind you, or maybe I'll put a link on the homepage for Canvas. I'll just have it on, and it's a system where if you type that URL or you go to to my Whereby room, you'll see if I'm online, and if I am online, you'll have like a knock button, and that'll let me know that you're there ready to chat, and then I'll let you into the room, and then we can chat. I'm happy to do that. And no, you don't have to look at it now. I mean, you can if you want, but I do have the links in Canvas, but I do want to explain them a little bit more, and I don't want to do that right now. So take a look at them if you've already done the Hello World post, which I guess you have, but you don't have to commit to anything yet, certainly. I will be talking about it more tomorrow. Okay, so I think that's good. So I will go ahead and that's all I needed to say for now about digital creativity. Okay, well, that's all I wanted to talk about for today's stream, so I'm going to wrap things up. I do actually have a outro scene set up here in OBS, so I'll switch to that, but I'll keep it running for a few more minutes if you have anything else you want to chat or ask on the stream channel, whatever. So I hope you'll have a good day. Thanks for watching, and I guess I'll see you again tomorrow at 10:30.